Yeah, so we'll discuss on the methods, Python methods, and the functions and difference between methods and functions, as well as we will cover through the examples. So methods are when we talk about the object-oriented programming language or data structure types in Python. Methods are essentially functions built into the objects. So what are the objects in Python? So we have a tuple. Tuple is an object. List is an object, and all the data types is treated as an object in Python. So similarly, if you are writing any function related to objects, or you want to perform any operation on the objects and you are writing the function for them, it's called as methods. So we will look into that. So it what is the method in forms? It will be like having kind of you will say this is my object. Object can be tuple or class is also an object, and it can be list, it can set and dictionary. On top of that, if you are applying something method and you are passing some argument, so this particular function is called as a method. So this is the syntax. So suppose I have a list. I say list equals to, say, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, and on top of that you have various functions. So I say this is my object, list is my object. On top of that I have, by using tab button, you can see all the methods. So I have append method, I have clear method, copy method. So these are all called as methods. So you can append variable number here, say list.append, and when you click, it will be having the original list is replaced with the new list. So this is we have appended a number into the list. So this is how you can use the methods, because we are applying the methods on the um, objects. So these are my object list, data types, or dictionary tuples. On top of that, if we are applying any function, that function is called as a list. So if you want to know, suppose you want to get the help of a method, you say list.append, and it will give you the help. So what it is saying is, this is a built-in list instance. So append is a method of built-in list instance. On top of that, you can say this is my list, and you can call the method by dot operator, dot append, and then you can apply the object, and it will append the object to the end of the data type. Now we'll see what is function in Python. So function will be one of the main building blocks when we construct larger and larger amount of code to solve problems. So formally, a function is useful when we have to group together the set of statement, so that we can run more than once. So it's kind of we are going to group a set of statement so that we can reuse that code again and again, or whenever it is required we can execute that piece of code. We can also specify the input arguments and the parameters into the function. So let's see the example. So how we can define the function in Python is using the def keyword. So def means definition. So we use definition and then we follow with the function name. This is my function name, and then you use the parenthesis and we have the argument here. This is argument 1, argument 2, and after that we have to use the colon here and enter. So automatically it is having the indentation of 4 spaces in Jupyter notebook, and after this you can write our statement. You can say do stuff here, or you can write your statements, my statements or your business logic. So this is the syntax of defining a function. We have another thing called as docstring. What is docstring? Docstring is you are saying that what is the use. You are giving us like information metadata about this function. You're saying this function is used for addition, subtraction, like that. So you have to give the purpose or the metadata about this function, so that someone in the future, if they are coming to this function, they will read your docstring and they will come to know what is the purpose of writing this function. So this is the syntax of how we can write a function. Now we will see how we can write the actual function. So let's take an example of hello world, and I say hello, and on top of that I say print hello world. So this is I have used a def keyword here, then I followed by the function name and the parenthesis. So here I'm not taking any argument, colon, and then I have written my code here, print statement. So how you can call this function? You can just give the function name, and as you don't have any argument in the function, you can use empty parenthesis and shift enter, and you will get the output. So this is, you don't have to write this particular piece of code again and again. You can just call this function as many times as you want, and it will print that statement. So the basic purpose of writing a function is reusability. So if I have to reuse this piece of code, I can directly call by a single keyword or function name, and it will execute. So let's see a function with a return statement. So I say, if I have to write a function with for the addition, so I say addition, and here I take two argument 1, argument 2, and then I say return the argument 1 plus argument 2. So here I am just returning the addition value, the sum of two numbers. So you say addition. To call this function, now we have to pass two arguments. I say argument 1 and argument 2. So suppose if I pass 12 comma 13, and it will return the sum of these number. So this is how we use the return statement. Return will just return the output, the output of your process result. So let's see an example when you have to write a function for like checking whether the number is prime or not. So I say prime or not, and I take one number, and I will say this function is used to check prime functionality, to check prime number. Okay, then I say I will apply a for loop, and so this is my logic basically. So for the prime number, you have to check whether it's divisible by a above 2 and equals to 2 and number minus 1. So suppose if it is divisible by any of the number, so this is my num divisible by n can grow from 2 to num minus 1 equals to 0. If it is divisible, then I say this is not a prime number. So I say num is not a prime number, else. So I say if it is not divisible by any of the numbers from starting from 2 to num minus 1, then I say this is even number. So I say num comma is prime, prime number. So it's a prime number. So to call this function, you have to say prime underscore or underscore not, and you pass a number, say 17. So it is saying it is a prime number. And similarly you can say prime or not, and you say 16. So it is saying it is prime is not. So let's use a break statement here. So once it is found out like it is not a prime number, it will break, and it should not run for the further. So it is saying 16 is not a prime number. So this is how we can use our functions to perform our task. So we can reuse this piece of code again and again whenever we want to find out whether the number is prime or not. So here if you observed, like we are not performing a function on any object. It is not being called with the dot operator. It's being called directly. So this is that's why we call this as a function. Now we will discuss on what is lambda expression and map and filter in Python. So let's discuss what is map function. Map function basically allows you to map a function to iterable objects. Iterable objects can be list, can be tuple, set. So it's allow you to map a function to iterable object. It is doing a mapping between iterable objects, which are list, tuple, and set, and with your function. So we will see how it is possible. So suppose I say, so let's take an example of prime or not. Okay, so I have a list. I say I have a list, so I am forming a list using the range operator, and I say I have a list from range 1 to 21. You can also convert it into the list. So I say, and I print it. So these are the number, and all of these number I want to check whether this number is prime or not, each one of the number. So I say map. So I am doing a mapping between iterable object and the function. So my function is prime or not, and my iterable object is list. So here it is returning me the map. So in Python 3 it has been started like map is generating a object. So before Python 3, like we used to get a list. So suppose if I convert this map object into the list by using typecasting, I will get a list. Here it is saying 1 is a prime, second is a prime, third is a prime, and 4 is not a prime. So like this. Yeah, correct. So it is storing the value of the function. So here actually we are not returning anything. So these are my print statement which I am getting. So in this you see everything is none here. So in this function, the function that we have written, I'm not returning anything. So it is not storing any value. So suppose let's take another example. So I say I want to do a square of this number, and I say return num square of num, and I'm returning. Now I say I want to do the mapping. So I say map square comma list. It is giving me objects. So let me convert this into a list. So here it is giving me the all the squares of my input values.
But sir, you are not passing the parameters from the list to the square function to the square function.
Yeah,
So
so
how it is getting the value?
yeah, so that's a syntax here. So what we it will automatically map function it will do the mapping between your function, which is square, and list. So it will by default in the backend it will take each number from your list and pass it to a square function. So suppose I say I am expecting two values in the argument and I am doing the multiplication here. So I say num into, so multiply. Now what will happen is, like I am, okay, so this is my num, I multiply and it will taking. So here map function will always pass only one item at a time into the function. So suppose here my function is expecting two items as an argument, but map is passing only one argument. So here it is throwing an error saying one required positional argument is missing. Similarly, we can write a code to like perform like whether to check whether it's prime or even or not, but you have to return the value so that it can store in the list form. Another is like how we can use what is about the lambda expression. So suppose I have a function like a square, and in that I used to have the um, I used to return num into num of square of number. And now if I want to write this function into a lambda expression, what is lambda in Python? Lambda is an anonymous function. So lambda function doesn't have any name. It is an inline function, means it will write the code in a single line and it will return it. So basically lambda function is used for small calculation where you don't want to do a lot of work. So suppose I say here in this piece of function I have only a small one line, right? I'm just returning the num of square of number. So we can translate this particular function into a lambda expression. How we can do it? So suppose the above code we can write it like, say, square of num, and I say return num square. So I can write this, right? So I am moving this piece of code in here. So in Python it is allowed. If it is a one-liner statement, you can write in this way. So similarly you can call, say, square of 2, so it will give me 4. So this is working perfectly. Now I am converting this square function step by step into lambda expression. So now if I say lambda expression doesn't need def statement, it is unnecessary. I also don't need any function name because the lambda expression is anonymous, so I don't need a function name, as well as the parentheses are also unnecessary for the lambda expression, and return keyword also. So let's see, I will remove all this and say, let me copy this piece of code and I say this is not required for me, this is also not required, and parentheses are also not needed, and return statement is also not required. But before that I have to specify whether this is a lambda expression or not. So I say lambda expression, and then I followed this by specifying the function. So I say num and return the square of number. When you execute this, it will give you the function object. So it is saying this is a function and it is main.lambda. So basically you don't have any name here, square. So in place of a name, it is saying this is a lambda function, and it is taking the argument num. Here you have to write the return statement. So I say if I express this particular lambda expression into the syntax, so here you have to specify the return value, what you want to return, and after colon you need to write the expression what you want to perform. Okay, so this is the syntax of writing the lambda. So let's see where we can use this particular piece of code. So suppose I say square. So I am assigning this lambda anonymous function into a variable, and then I say square of 2, and it will give me the output saying the square of 2 is 4. So like this we can use. Let's see another example with the map. So suppose I say, so previously I was using a square, comma, and list. So it was giving me the list of square number. So let me use 2. Okay, so these are my numbers. So in place of a square I can directly write a lambda function, lambda x colon x square, and it will give me the output. If you want q, you can get the q of the numbers. So this is how you can use the uh, lambda expression. You can also say like I have lambda and I'm returning s, and I say this is, so basically this is giving you the reverse of a string. So yeah, so this is how you can reverse the string also. You can use this statement with the map function and it will give you the reverse of the string. Now suppose here, sorry, I it was wrong over here. It is like this is the input value, not return value. This is the input value and this is your return value. Okay, so suppose I have more than one input value. So I can say lambda and a comma b comma c. I have three values and I want to return the sum of these three values. So like this you can write. So this I am taking three arguments and I am returning the sum of the argument. So this is how we can use the lambda keyword, lambda expression in Python. Next is filter expression, filter function in Python. So how we can use the filter function? So suppose I say I have a function def check even and I say num. So I'm just checking whether the number is even or not, and I say if number is divisible by 2, then I say it's a even number. Okay, so how can you use if I have to use the filter is basically it's return whether the items which you are getting in the nums list, if it is following and going through your validation, it is, and if it is passing the validation it will return the number. So you are filtering the items. So right now you have 1 to 20 items numbers, right, and you want to filter these numbers based on some criteria. So here your criteria is you want to check whether the number is even or not. So I simply say, I say filter and I say check even and I say list. So it is returning the object. So let me convert into the list, and this is how you are getting. So you have added a validation and you say if it is passing my validation then only return that particular item. So first is not passing the validation, it is failing, so it is not returning you the number, but second is passing, so it is you have the numbers. So this is about the filter expression, filter function, sorry.
Is this filter function in place or it has to be reassigned?
You have to reassign, it is not in place. So if you say list is having the actual value, original value, so you have to put this list into, I say, result list, and you can use this. Okay, so this is how about lambda expression with map function and filter function. Now we have a nested statement, how we can use a nested statement with Python. So let's see what is about the scope of our local variables and global variable, how it works. So here we are talking about how we can use about how we can how what is local variable and global variable, how they work in Python. So suppose I have a name variable here and I say this is a global variable, okay, and I say, and then I use a function called hello, and I say inside that I say name Ramesh, and then I say uh, so this is like I am writing a nested function here. So I say hello, so I say welcome function here, and I say print hello and the name, so I say name. Then I say I am calling this function, and after that outside this hello function I am calling the hello function. So you can see here we have a nested function over here. So this is my function here, which is hello function. Inside that I have another function called as welcome function, and I am calling that function welcome here. So how is the execution is going to work? Suppose you have declared this function inside the hello function. So the existence of this function will be inside the hello function only. When you come outside this hello block, it will not work. If you try to call this welcome state function here outside, it will not work because it is having the existence still here, till in hello block. So
within the hello.
yeah. Now let's see. We will execute and see what is happening here. So, so how the compiler will work? So compiler will come first at this particular line. So line number 1, and it will say name equals to, this is my global variable. Then it will go to this particular line, and then it will come to this line. Okay, so it basically goes through the top level. So here you have at the top you have name, so it will go at the 0th index, this is 0th index, this is 0th index. So it will go through all the 0th index first. But when you say hello and you want to execute, it will go into this function. So and again it will come at this particular line and say 4. Then it will come at this line 5. So now the name is replaced with the Ramesh. Okay. Now it will go to this particular line where you're calling the welcome function. When you're calling the welcome function, then it will go inside the welcome function 7. So this is how, that's why here you say it is having the value called as Ramesh in regardless of this particular value. Now if I make a little modification and if I say I want to print the value of name, what is name? So name here you will get a global variable. Why? Because the existence of this particular variable is till this local block. It is not outside this block. So this is a global variable and this is a local variable. Okay. So that's why when you print name, it will come. This is a global variable. And we have some built-in functions also. You can say len. So len is a built-in function which will give you the length of your list. Suppose here we have name, so it will give the length of characters in this particular string. So similar, if we take an example, if I say x equals to 25, 23, and I say def function, and I am taking an argument x, and I say print x is, so here I am printing the value of x, and then I say x equals to 2, and then I say print, and I say changed local x to, and I'm checking whether the value got changed or not. Then outside this function, I'm calling this function with, I say, 12. Okay, and then I say print x. So here I basically want to check how is the global variable and local variable is working out here. So what is the compiler? So first you to find out what is the value of x. So first you know how the compiler is working. So it will come to this particular line, then it will go to line number this, then it will go inside the x. So here the value is x is 12 because you have passed the argument 12. Then again you are replacing this value 12 with 2. So here the value is 2. Then it will go outside. So here it will come, and so it will be 23 because it will take the global variable. Suppose I in the same piece of code, if I want to you change the value of x equals to 23 within my function. Okay, so how we can do it? You can say you have to use the global keyword and you have to say global x. So it will take the global variable x and it will modify. So let's see what is happening. Okay, so here you are getting error because it is saying x is a parameter and as well as a global variable. So let's see in another example. We'll take another example and we'll figure out. So let's say I am not taking a parameter x and I say this is my x. Okay, now I will make modification and I say global x. Okay, so here what is happening, you are calling the function and it will go and come over here. So global will allow you to use the global variable inside the local block, and you can it will allow you to do the modification in the global variable. So within this it is saying x is, it will be 23 because it is taking the global variable, because it is not defined in this till here it is not defined in the local block. So by default it will search first in the local block. If it is not able to find in the local block, it will go outside the and find what is the value of x. It is 23. So it has printed here x equals to 23. Then it will come over here saying x equals to 2. So you have done the reassignment. You have told x equals to 2. And when you print this statement, it will say x equals to 2. Now the global value of x is changed by 2. So when you print and you come at this particular point, it is saying print x, where the value is 2. So you have changed the value. So this is how we can change the global values using a global keyword.
So can we have a global and a local value having the same name?
Same name. So suppose you have x equals to 3 and we say x equals to 2. Okay, so let's see what is. So it is saying x is assigned to before global declaration. So when you say global x, so it is kind of you are declaring a variable, but it is saying you have declared, you have defined, you have assigned the variable before the declaration. So this is what happened when you do the assignment before the global variable. If I do the assignment here, then it is same. It is like you are modifying the global variable. So you have changed the x equals to 23 with x equals to 2.
No, that is not my question. I'm saying that yeah, yeah, I am having a global value x inside the function, but can I have a local value inside the function with the name x? Suppose in this is your code, when I'm doing x equal to 2, can I have a local value like this having 2?
Local value x equals to 2. I didn't get your question.
Here I am declaring a global value x, and I am trying to modify that global value from within the function by using the global keyword.
Yeah.
So can I have a global value and a local value having both name x inside the function?
Now, if you have both the values with x, it will not work as a local way. It will always take as a global value. So here you have defined x. Okay, so I suppose this is my local x, right? But it will not. It will always refer to the global because you have already given the expression with x. So you cannot have two variable with the same variable name, right? Yeah, so it's like that. So now we will discuss like how we can use args and quars in Python. So what is the use of having args keyword, and so how we can represent the args and quars. So basically you might have seen some function in Python which is having this a special symbol saying star and args, star star quars. So we will see what is the use of this and why we have the need of this. So suppose I say I have a function. I say this is my function. I say my function and say a equals to a comma b. I am taking two argument here and I am returning the sum of these two values. So I say sum of these two items is a comma b, and it will do the summation and it will return me the value. So suppose I say function a comma b, and sorry, you have to pass the number here, sorry. So it will return me the int object is not iterable, and you say okay, so yeah, so it is work on the iterator, so it should work with the list or tuple, or you can say. So I'm writing here two values. So it is giving me the output. It is giving me the sum of the two numbers. Okay. So suppose this is one of my tester is testing this function, and he is not aware of the internal functioning, right? So he's testing the.
What was the error which came that about arithmetic? What was that error came?
So some function actually works on the iterator. So iterable object. So it should be list. So yeah. So it doesn't work when you say sum and you say 2 comma 3. Here it will show the error because in yeah, it should be at iterator item, so that it can perform the iteration and it will get you the results. So back to the business. So this was my function. I say my function, and the tester was not aware of this implementation. So while he was testing, he was saying my function and 3212. Now as I'm testing, I want to add one more value. I said 32 12 34, and it is giving me the error. It's saying it takes only two positional argument but three is given. So I say I replace this function with a new code and I say okay, now this will work. I get back here and I say okay, so it is working. So I tested one other scenario. Now again, if I would like to test the old scenario, it is again failing. It is saying missing argument. So now I go back and again I modify my code and I say let's take a default value. If someone is not passing any value, it should also work. I say so it will take the default value. So suppose okay, so what I will do, I will come here and I will test this feature, then I will go with another scenario and I say 12. So here what is happening, it a equals to 32 you have given, b equals to 12 you have given, c equals to is not there from the user, so it will take the default value as 0 and it will perform the summation. Now if I say I am not passing any value, also it is working because it is saying 0 0 it will take and it will give you the summation of 0. Okay, now if I say Now I am passing another value, another item. I say I am passing here the elements. So again it is showing me the error. So to come up this kind of scenario where you are looking for n number of argument and you want to do the summation, so we have args keyword, functional parameter with asterisk sign. So asterisk mean it can accept the arbitrary number of arguments in the function. So let's rewrite this function and see how we can rewrite. So here I am saying I am replacing this particular argument and I say take arguments here, all the arguments from the user, and here also I am replacing with the args. So what is the meaning of this particular star args is like you can use anything here. You can write your own expression, own variable name, but it is recommended that you use the same so that someone from outside it is coming to look your code, they can understand what is the purpose of this particular argument. So it is saying it can have, this function can have multiple arguments for this function. So star means multiple here. So now if I say, if I execute this particular piece of code, I can get the output even if I have less number of argument, then also it will work. So if you don't have any argument, so here also it works. So let's see how it is coming. So I'm just adding a print statement because I'm eager to know how it is coming in this my print. So it is coming as a tuple. It is coming as a tuple. On tuple we are doing the operation. So if you want to perform a for loop and all, then you are aware that it's coming as a tuple. On top of that I can perform my calculations. Now, so this is about args. So do you have any question?
So just one question. In tuple, we can have inside a collection we can have another collection as one of the items of the parent collection. So can we pass suppose items such as list or other tuples in R?
So you okay? So you're saying suppose if I pass these numbers as okay. So here what is trying to do? So it is taking this item, this list expression as an item. So it is forming this particular collection. It is saying this is my item 1, and if you have a requirement like this in your code, then you can basically you can use, and it can have one collection can have multiple different collections inside the tuple. Yeah, so that's now I say I have one function. I say my function, and so let's take the same example I take here. And so in this function, you can also pass the argument by saying a equals to 12, b equals to 13, and c equals to 45, and it will give you the output. So this is how you can also define. You can also change the position. You say b, so it doesn't bother about the position when you're defining a key value pair. It doesn't care about the position, at what position you're defining b. So it will definitely it will go into the b only here, even you have defined at the first level, but it still it will go at the b. So b will get declared by the 12. So suppose if you have the requirement of having the value like this, so in this case if you use args, let's see what happens. So it is telling got unexpected argument b, so it is not accepting my values. Now So I am refining this function more and more. So we have another called as keyword argument. So when you have a requirement of from user that you want to take the keyword argument, in that case you can use double star and keyword. So this is my keyword argument, and I say my function is equals to b equals to 12, a is not defined, and I say okay. So let's see what is the problem. So I say print quars and I execute it again. So here okay, so name error is variable error, so I execute it again. So if I have added the print statement, and in the print statement I figured out that quaz is a dictionary. So if I want to get the value of a from the quaz, what I have to modify, I have to say quaz, and I have to use the square bracket. Inside that I can use the key name. So I copy this portion of code and I replace with here. Okay, so now it performed the operation and it is giving me the output or the sum of these numbers. Now again, if I say I I want to pass 12, 13 and C45. So this will not work. Why this will not work? Because here I am expecting a quaz. I am expecting a key value pair. So this particular operation will not work. And suppose I have a
Just I have one question. Okay, because the enumerate function is because the index can be a key and the value we are already providing.
yeah. So here it will work. The way you're saying, like you can use here the okay. So you meant to say like it should automatically assign 0 equals to 12 and 1
Or
equals to 20.
this function can also be zipping two lists, one containing the index and another containing the value.
Yeah, so but you have to express in the different form again. So if I say I cannot use this particular expression, then it will become a different key value expression. It will become similar to what we have here right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so in that case it will work, definitely it will work, but it is not accepting the numbers here. It is not
So I
expect.
need key and value both.
Yeah,
Key name.
so for the quars requirement, when you have a quars as an argument, you need to pass both key and value. Okay, so let's see an example where you have a need of where you want to pass argument as well as keyword argument in the same function. So let's say I have my function and I say the user is entering the argument and keyword argument. So in this function, when you are expecting from the user that user should enter the argument and as well as the keyword arguments. So from the Python, the syntax is always you have to specify the argument first, followed by the keyword argument. Okay, so argument will come at the as a first argument, then you will assign say the in second argument you can specify here the keywords. So suppose I say let's use print statement here, and I am simply printing my argument and I'm printing the quars here, and this is my function. Okay, then I say my function and I am defining say I say this is Ram Shyam, and then I say um, student name equals to John, and can give roll number, and I say this is the roll number. So in this case what is happening, I am passing So these are considered as a um, so argument. So this is lam, sham, and these are considered as a key value pairs. So sorry, I have to specify here equals to. So this is my name and equals to zone, and then you're saying roll number is equals to 1 2 1 2 3 1 3. Let's see how it is accepting in the. So here we see it is saying okay, so it should not have, the key should not be a string here. So I specify here, and now this is my argument, which is a tuple here, and this is your keyword argument. So this is how you can access the argument and keyword argument in your function. You can use the keyword argument for your business logic where you want to use it. Okay, and arguments also you can access using this particular tuple.
Can you change the order here? Can we keep Sam after name equal to John?
No, we cannot. That's what I was telling you. You have to define the argument first, then the keyword argument. If you define afterwards, it will throw you a error saying positional argument follows the keyword argument.